docks of Oakland, get a job. After World War II, everything shut down. People who were already in the North ghettoized and cut out of the jobs as people came back from the war. And black families struggling so hard to stay intact, but having to become, in the main, live-in maids and sleeping car porters. So when Bill Clinton talks to us about the breakdown of the black family, he's obviously making a historical statement, has no idea about what black, but someone from Little Rock, Arkansas, or just outside of it, Hope, wherever that is, probably would not have an understanding of that, even though he considers himself to be a scholar. So by the time we get to the 54 Brown decision, and we get to 1955, and that great moment when Rosa Parks, in the tradition of Ida B. Wells Barnett, says, I'm not going to get up on this bus and give my seat to a white man, which wasn't something that she said, oh, I'm just tired today. This was a plan. She was in the NAACP. Let's, have a little reality here. She's just like Homie Plessy had done in a train in Louisiana, giving us, unfortunately, the decision in Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896. By that time that Rosa Parks made that one great statement, at that particular moment in history, black people have been struggling to be free for nearly 100 years, since 1865. Still couldn't get a job, you follow me? And couldn't do anything. Now, and so what evolved at that moment, because of a variety of other things that came into play, was a freedom struggle, a renewed sense that we wanted to be free. This was not a civil rights movement. Nobody says that until after the fact. This was a movement for freedom. And the question was, what kind of society was America going to be? The women in the movement were equal as to men, whether or not some of the men recognized it or not. Didn't matter. They were equal, and we can talk about that. We know that even the girls, the significant moments that we can think of, we think of Linda Brown. Brown versus Board of Education. This little child trying to get an education. Her parents sent her. Little Ruby Bridges, whose mother said to her, don't be afraid, little Ruby, to go to school in New Orleans when you're the only black child in the entire school. They had to take troops, as Norman Rockwell painted in that famous painting, had to have troops to take you to school when you was in the first grade. And of course we had the great voices of people like Fannie Lou Hamer in the tradition of Harriet Tubman, singing This Little Light of Mine, telling people from the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, if you resolve to go along with the plans of Hubert Humphrey and the Democratic Party, she said, I will kill everybody in this room that decides to make a compromise against our people, coming out of Sunflower County. And lastly, I just want to tell you a quick story. I was on a conference a panel once with Reverend Hosea Williams. Some of you may know his name. And Hosea Williams, everybody knew in Atlanta, was a wild man, even to the very end of his life. And he told the story of the March 1965 march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge from Selma to Montgomery, what is called Bloody Sunday. And he told us that story, and he said, and we were all gathered, and he said, and the men wanted to drive across the bridge. And the women said, no, we're walking. So they decided to walk. And of the 800 and some people who were on the bridge, about, he said, 15 or so were white. And maybe another 100 and some were men. And the rest were women and their children. And they walked, and as they walked in the middle, they could hear the hoofs of the horses that were getting ready to stomp them almost to death. And you could hear it on that bridge, pounding and going forward. He said, and a woman came over and he said, Reverend Williams, get down, they're coming after you. Put our coat over him. These were the women of the movement. Nobody thought that women had an inferior role unless they were living in some other dream world. And there were plenty of men who said things like that. We all know the statement that was attributed to Stokely Carmichael that the only position for a woman in the movement was prone. There were statements like that, but in the essence, we were, of course, a part of a movement, a larger movement, and we recognized as black people that we could not cut out one half of us if we were ever going to be free. All of us were ever going to be free. Of course, you have Ella Bacon, Daisy Bates, and the SNCC women of SNCC, and all the other women who did wonderful things during that time period, and as we go forward. This movement was a chorus, and it was a chorus of both of us singing together, black men and black women, and we all sang the same song, Oh Freedom, oh freedom over me, and before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. Thank you very much.